Hello and welcome to my take on how to magnetize an Astra Militarum Chimera. So a couple quick disclaimers. I know this is only primed. Sorry for that. I will get around to painting it eventually. Also, pardon the lasgun arrays flopping all over the place. I don't think I like that, so I'm probably going to end up gluing these in eventually since I didn't do anything brilliant with ball and ring magnets, which I'm sure somebody has done. Okay. So for the back hatch, I just used one pair of 3x1mm magnets in the corner there, and I was going to put another pair in the other corner, but I found that it would have been unnecessary because this connection is fine. It's not opening unless I want it to. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze on that width of plastic though, so if you went with 2x1mm magnets here, that would probably be fine, although I might recommend that you do go with two pairs, one on each side, if you go with 2x1s. The 3x1s are quite a bit stronger, so that works pretty well, just like that. For the front hull-mounted weapon here, I used a bit of pre-magnetized sprue, looking something like that, and glued it in from the bottom before finishing the build while things were still open. And by putting a bit of sprue in this gap here on the back of the weapon and sanding that down flat, you can drill in a nice central magnet there, and those are going to connect pretty well. For the main turret weapon here, I used 3x1s in all of the weapon options. As you can see, the multi-laser and the heavy flamer have a magnet flush in the center, and as does the heavy bolter option. So this one is pretty simple, snaps right on. And as you can see, the base magnet here has a nice little square indentation for you to use, and I believe I did drill it out a little bit just to help it stay nice and flush. But whether you're using the multi-laser or the heavy flamer, you basically just thread it through and then stick it right onto the base magnet. So let's do that. And if you really wanted to go crazy, you could probably put some internal magnets sideways in order to allow this to stay in place up and down as opposed to falling like that. I did something similar in the arms of my dreadnoughts, my Space Marine dreadnoughts, so I'll talk about that in another video. Moving on to other war gear options, here's the Hunter Killer missile, I believe, and who doesn't like being able to take the missile off and throw it at your opponent's models when you're actually about to use it, and then of course remind yourself that you've already used it. 2x1mm magnets right in the center, and you could probably get away with one just right in the middle, but I went with two for some extra security, and that's pretty simple. As for the Dozer Blade, this one was kind of fun to magnetize because it starts out with a nice, easy 2 3x1s on this cross piece here, which easily correspond right there. These grooves also help. And so that's what I started with. Now on this side, this cross piece here is, it overshoots that line a bit. So I went ahead and put a piece of sprue across there. And because of where the plastic lined up, I ended up using a couple magnets just to lift the height and make it so that with this base magnet flush, they would still make contact with one another. So you could play with it and do things a little differently, but that's how I did it, and it works very well. And it's cool that the Dozer Blade is also perfectly compatible with, say, the Leman Russ. So if I were to put some magnets in there, I could clip that in as well. Although look at that. The friction fit isn't bad. It's not great though. And finally, a couple things that are totally unnecessary, starting with the top hatch here. I was experimenting and put magnets in here and here, as well as on the sides of that piece right there. 2mm by 1mm, because I wanted to be able to open up the hatch and leave it like that, as opposed to say on my Leman Russ, which has this type of magnet, when I open it up, it's never going to stay properly. I would have to flip it upside down, which is fine, but it looks a little weird. The other option is to remove it entirely. For the Chimera, I was interested in being able to just have it open and close like a natural hatch. I'm going to go ahead and say that this was not worth the effort. The plastic here, here, and there, there's not enough plastic to work with. And in retrospect, I would have rather just gone the traditional way and, you know, had it flipped like that when it was open or whatever. As it stands now, it is kind of cool that I can do this, but look, it doesn't even really stay properly. So I wouldn't do that again. Of course, I do have the regularly placed 2x1mm magnet on the front so that it snaps shut like that. Actually, in the process of filming this, I realized that if I just glue a couple extra magnets, 3x1s, to the outside of that section, I can actually make that whole bit work better, more as intended. So actually, that's, I just realized that, so cool. Last but not least, the heavy stubber. Now, if we're talking about unnecessary magnetizations, this one probably takes the cake. It is cool to be able to put it on and take it off, but man, was it annoying to get this 2x1mm magnet in there and save that bit of plastic and keep it from coming off, because you kind of need it. As you can see, that's the connection I went for. Stupid, I know, why bother? And also, why bother with this? I don't know, but I did. I wanted to be able to move the sponson up and down, the stubber, I mean. So this peg and this hole I kept, and then on the other side, I glued in a couple 2mm magnets, as you can see, just so that I could do that. It's kind of hard to explain, but you can see how it works, right? So it's just kind of neat to be able to move this around. Totally unnecessary, though. It was more just experimentation and having fun with it. But yeah, that's basically it. And there you have it, my friends. A fully magnetized Chimera, including unnecessary magnetizations. This was one of the earlier models that I did, so that's why there's some weird experimental janky stuff on this. But it was definitely fun to do, and I encourage you to magnetize your own. Thanks for watching, and happy wargaming!